I read in the National Institute of Mental Health, they found that 5.4% of adult men and 3.2% of adult women have ADHD. Why do you believe that ADHD is more common in men?
Well, it is more common in
Because?
Men have sleepier frontal lobes than women. So I published the world's largest imaging study on gender and looked at the difference in 46,000 patients, difference between male brains and female brains. Females have much stronger, much more active prefrontal cortex. Men have sleepier prefrontal cortex. And what's the one statistic that identifies that? Who goes to jail? Men. 14 times more than females. So they have a relative dopamine deficit compared to females. But girls still have it. And when left untreated, it just devastates their lives. And how you can diagnose it in a teenage girl is just look at their love pattern. They get all excited about falling in love, dopamine burst. After it wears off, right? It's like, don't get married in the next 2 months because you never really know. After the dopamine wears off, the cocaine effect wears off, they start picking on their partner and they start fighting. And so new love, fighting, and then they break up and there's lots of drama around breaking up and they get suicidal sometimes. And then they fall in love again. And then they pick on their new person and then they break up and lots of drama around it. And if you see that pattern repeatedly, screen them for ADD. Very important.
How does ADHD show up differently for men and women?
So men tend to be more hyperactive. Women tend to have more the inattentive type. Women also tend to have the over-focused type more. Men, the temporal lobe type, because the temporal lobe type can be in part born out of a concussion or a head injury. And, people who have ADD have way more concussions and accidents. And the reason for that is the shorter attention span and impulse control issues.
I think as I'm sitting here listening to you and trying to understand just how, even the way you broke down the 7 types of ADHD, you start to think about how ADHD doesn't just affect an individual's focus and attention and performance at school. As you rightly said earlier, it starts to affect your relationships, right? If you have a parent, and I want to talk about all of these independently, if you have a parent that has ADHD and they have passed or haven't passed it on to you, that has an impact on you. If you're dating someone, you were talking about your first 2 wives, when you're dating someone who has ADHD, that has an impact on you. If you have ADHD and you're dating someone who doesn't, that has an impact on you and them. It starts to impact all areas of life. And because we have such a limited understanding of it, we can get frustrated when someone clips out our labels, or we can get upset when someone is always late and we say, oh, you don't care about me, you're always late. Like, it can actually start to become more emotional than it is just biological, chemical, and physical.
It's biological for sure.
Yeah.
That it gives you psychological effects, and the chronic stress damages your immune system for you and the people who love you. Clearly social. I think one of the reasons for divorce is untreated ADD. I think it's often the hidden cause, and it's spiritual because you just believe you're less than, that God, however you see God, doesn't care about you.
What do we do with that feeling? Because that's the feeling for people who have ADHD and they feel they're failing at life. They feel they're underperforming. They feel like they're not going to succeed. But earlier you were saying to me, actually, some of the greatest CEOs of big companies are people with ADHD. So walk me through, if someone's sitting here thinking, well, I'm not going to achieve anything with my life because I've got ADHD, what would you say to them?
You're responsible to get it treated because with treatment, you can be amazing because you often have the ability to see things other people don't see. And it's the undisciplined mind that creates so much trouble. So, at Amen Clinics, we want to look at your brain, of course. We want to get it healthy, and we get it healthy, whether it's diet, supplements, exercise, medicine, whatever tools we have. A lot of people do really well with neurofeedback, where you can actually measure the electrical activity in your brain and then through exercises strengthen it. So I like neurofeedback a lot, but then you also have to reprogram your mind. And I talk about killing the ants, the automatic negative thoughts that steal your happiness. And people who have ADD often have a high negativity bias. And so learning to direct your thoughts in a positive, in a helpful, in a hopeful way, absolutely critical to overcome it. The first exercise I do with all of my patients, but particularly my ADD patients, is called the one-page miracle. On one piece of paper, write down what you want. Relationships. What do you want? Like with Tana, I want a kind, caring, loving, supportive, passionate relationship. Don't always feel it. I get rude thoughts that show up, but I don't say them. Why? Because I inhibit them because they don't fit. Most people in life don't do this exercise, which I find crazy. What do you want your work or school? What do you want for your money? What do you want for your physical health, your emotional health, your spiritual health? What do you want? We put it on one paper. And then the question always becomes, does it fit? Does my behavior fit the goals I have for my life? So that's what your prefrontal cortex does, right? It sets goals and helps you continue to achieve them despite the obstacles that you have. So I remember I'm in college and I want to go to medical school, and I took organic chemistry and I got a 42 on my first test. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be an obstacle. Get a tutor. And I ended up obviously going to medical school, but it's your if it's low, you get a 42 and then you give up. So you don't have that persistence. But the first step always is, what do you want? Is my behavior getting me what I want? And they often come into my office and they go, Dr. Amen, I'm brutally honest. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, they have ADD. And then I'm like, but that's usually not helpful. Relationships require tact. They require forethought. Jerry Seinfeld once said, the brain is a sneaky organ. We all have weird, crazy, stupid, sexual, violent thoughts that nobody should ever hear. But when you have ADD, your inside voice gets out when it can be hurtful. So that's the first step. Yeah. Know what you want. And then, is my behavior getting me what I want? And if my behavior is not getting me what I want, could my brain be better?
And therefore that leads to the treatment. Because I think a lot of people are waking up every day and they're thinking kind of like what you said, that learned helplessness. They're like, well, I'm eating right and I am working out and I am trying to be motivated, or maybe even I don't make it to the workout every day, I'm really trying. But every time I try, I just lose motivation and I lose energy. Is that something you hear quite often?
I do. And that's why we scan people twice, once at rest, once when they concentrate. And if their brain drops with activity, it's like, okay, we have to treat this. And, we can try to treat it with supplements, and I like them a lot. I own BrainMD and I want to support you. People who take EPA fish oil, omega-3 fatty acids, helps with ADD, also helps with mood. There are 5 studies with saffron, the spice saffron, as effective as Ritalin in some studies.
That's amazing. Wow.
And it helps 25 randomized controlled trials that saffron helps with depression compared to antidepressants. So I love saffron.
I've been eating saffron since I was a kid because it's in the Indian diet as a very staple thing.
Right. And there's lore in India. If you're too happy, you must have had saffron. Omega-3 fatty acids, B vitamins, pycnogenol, which is from pine bark, has been found to be helpful. So I start based on your type. Okay, here are the supplements. Let's get your diet right. And then if those things don't work, then I think, well, we should consider medication.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you're so clear on that. I know whenever there's a new discovery, I'm always texting you going, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? Because I appreciate your perspective, because it's not coming from an opinion and it's not coming from a single case. And as I'm listening to you today, what I really take away is that everything is so specific and everything is so individual and personal. It's not like you were saying, like some medication could actually be brilliant. And you said even miraculous for someone's brain. But if it's a different type of brain, it doesn't work that well. But we have this one size fits all model that we keep rolling out. Why do we even get to make these big claims of something being innocuous or something being the perfect cure, or alcohol is good for your heart, or everything that you've been mentioning?
Well, you just have to follow the money.
How's it legal to say that?
I think a lot of it is driven by the alcohol industry, the marijuana industry, and now, all of these billionaires investing in mushrooms and psilocybin. And I'm like a huge fan of lion's mane, and we make something called smart mushrooms, but you have to be very careful with something that disrupts someone's brain and someone's mind. And for some people, it can be helpful. For other people, it's a nightmare. Yeah. And I'm like, first do no harm. Right. And so the first thing, if you're depressed or you have PTSD, is let's get your diet right, and let's get you to exercise and not believe every stupid thing you think, and take omega-3 fatty acids. Or if you have PTSD, EMDR. I'm a huge fan of a psychotherapy called eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's like, first do no harm. Let's make sure we're doing the simple